Hello, today I'm talking about giant spiders, what's known about them, sightings, and even a supposed sexual assault video. I'll get to that, I promise. So if any of that interests you, I'll stick around. The giant Congolese spider, or J'ba Fofi, is a giant spider that lives in the Congos of Africa. The natives have never, spoken to each other about these giant spiders. They just all have different reports about them, which is weird, because they don't have any way of, communicating with each other. Infant J'ba Fofi spiders are about the size of a full-grown tarantula spider, and they appear yellow and brown, with a yellow marking on their abdomen, and as they mature, they become more brown and black, with that same purple marking on their abdomen. These spiders make giant webs, and are reported to cover large portions of the rainforest, and they burrow under tunnels like that of a trapdoor spider. There's a bunch of different stories about the J'ba Fofi. The most famous one is from 1938, and it involves a couple driving down the road of the rainforest when they see a thing crawl out in front of them. At first they think it's a monkey or a child, and as soon as they realize it's a spider, it's gone. The reason why a bunch of people theorize that a giant spider could live in the forests of the Congos is that because of how dense and oxygen rich it is, and just among other weird things living in the Congos that people have reported, and apparently giant spider, not that weird among giant cryptids, especially in the Congos. My personal favorite story about the J'ba Fofi comes from Reddit user Rucania, and while I couldn't get a source to verify any of what he said, I just think the story is way too cool to pass up, and I'm going to leave a link in the description so you can read it for yourself if you want to, but I'm just going to go over the journal entries that's written here. This particular story is about Douglas Arnott and his companion Joseph Kasongo as they map out the rainforest of the Congos. In 1978, Arnott and Kasongo found themselves in the village of Dakar. Arnott describes it as having no more than 50 or 60 inhabitants. They live primitively, a far stretch from London certainly. The people speak limited English, yet have offered me a warming kindness, also a far stretch from London. Arnott further writes, Joseph and I have been graciously hosted by Miss Veronique Kyungu. Veronique's home is modest, boasting dirt floors and only 2 rooms, yet her hospitality has more than made up for her lack of luxury. Veronique is a widow and has 2 young children that are seldom home, yet I've tried my hand at coddling her youngest child, baby Albert. Joseph mentions this as a J'ba Fofi territory, and many of the locals have supported this. They are claiming of tarantulas that exceed the length of an arm, I assume 2 or 3 feet? On September 30th, 1978, he writes, a young lad from the village returned from the river in hysterics today. He cried to his mother and surrounding villagers of J'ba Fofi. Rather than consolidate or inform the boy of the impossibility of this, the villagers began to pray. To my surprise, Joseph also began to pray. I thought Joseph to be a fellow man of science. I suppose I shouldn't ridicule him, however. If a spider of this magnitude existed, I would probably pray too. Arnott's next entry is believed to be the first documentation of a J'ba Fofi. 2nd October. Upon mine and Joseph's latest hike in the surrounding jungle to the Mobago River, we saw the largest king baboon I'd ever seen. We had king baboons reach 6 or 7 inches before, but this must have been at least 10 to 12 inches. I noticed in a tree, almost watching us, until it scurried off into the undergrowth. Some think it was just a large king baboon spider, some think it was an infant J'ba Fofi, and some say that he actually underestimated just how big it was, just so he didn't seem crazy. And this next entry out of Douglas Arnott is the last time he talked about J'ba Fofi, and in fact, he leaves the Congo after this entry. And this happened on October 5th, 1978. Joseph and I had to leave the village of Dakar. In fact, I'll be taking a leave of absence from mapping the Congo for a while. I'm writing this entry 2 days after the fact and still struggle to put into words what I saw. I will attempt to, yet I do not know if I will ever show this writing to anyone. We were all sleeping at Veronique's. Joseph and I slept on the hammocks in the living area, Veronique on a small bed in the cooking area, and 3 children in their own adjacent room to us. I awoke at perhaps 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. The jungle was alive with noise as usual. That was not what awoke me, however. I heard a small whimpering coming from the children's room. These children had been neither seen nor heard for the majority of our stay, so I could sense something was unusual. I decided to investigate. There are no doors, only beads in the doorway, so I rose from my hammock and proceeded to check their room to see if they were fine. I brushed past the beads, and neither of the older children were in their shared bed. I heard the whimpering again, but from by my feet this time. I looked down and see them curled next to the wall just below me. They had haunting expressions on their faces. They had haunting expressions on their faces, tears streaming down their cheeks and their eyes fixated across the room. It took me a moment for my eyes to adjust, but I wish they never had. I followed the children's stares to baby Albert's cot. Baby Albert's cot by the open window. The moonlight struck through the window to illuminate one of the most horrific sights of my life. A spider. It was at least 3 feet in length, potentially 4 feet. Its brown hairs resembled a matted dog's coat, its large fangs probably 6 inches long. The fangs that were sunk into Albert. In hindsight, I can assume some sort of paralyzing venom is the reason Albert did not scream, or perhaps the spider had already gorged itself on poor Albert before I had arrived. My fear froze me for some seconds. Those seconds felt like a lifetime. Those seconds felt like a lifetime, before I gathered the courage to charge the spider. To my horror, instead of scuttling off like any other, this monster raised both of its 2 front legs at me in a show of dominance almost. I fell back and watched as it stood over Albert's body, dwarfing him with its legs raised above its torso. The spider then decided to leave, crawling back through the window I had assumed it came in from. I feel as if I do not need to describe Veronique's screams when we woke her. They will haunt me forever, as will the J'ba Fofi. So yeah, you can probably see why that story is my favorite of everything I have heard about the J'ba Fofi. It's horrifying. Everything about it. Just seeing a giant spider over a child, eating it, not for me. And if I saw a giant spider, my first reaction is probably going to be doing this. Well, that or crying, I guess, but I think that reaction might confuse the hell out of both of us. So there's been other sightings of giant spiders that are not just in the Congos, such as in 1942 in Papua New Guinea, where a soldier saw a spider that was puppy-sized inhabiting a 15-foot web. Another one is in 1948 in Leesville, Louisiana, where William Sladen and his grandchildren were walking along Highway 171 when he motioned to them to stop, and they heard something rustling in the bushes. What happened next was they saw a spider the size of a wash tub just crawling out of the underbrush. Last one, and this one is what really sparked my whole research rabbit hole of giant spiders, and really I have no one to thank other than Wendigoon for sparking all this. So if you also want to blame for me making this video, blame him. But anyway, it happened in 2012, where a Austrian-Serbian porn actress reported to her friends and family that she had been sexually assaulted by a spider 4 foot in size. This tape became known as the Sabine Tomatovic tape, and it propelled her fame in Japan's Genki circle, and if you want to know more about that, research it yourself. I'm not going to talk about it. It's gross. Viewer discretion advised. You can probably guess what it is based off what I'm talking about, though. So yeah, a lot of people have claimed to have seen this tape, but no one's actually produced a copy of it, so take that for what you will. So yeah, nowadays, the natives have reported seeing less and less of these giant spiders roaming the forest. They say it's due to things like deforestation and wildfires. So yeah, that was me talking about giant spiders. I don't know if I'm going to do more cryptid videos like this. If it does well, I might, but we'll see. I have other things that I kind of want to do. I have a script that I'm almost done writing and would like to cast it and make it. We'll see what comes with that. I think this channel is going to be more of a, hey, I have something to talk about it, or some I found cool, can talk about it. We'll see. But yeah, just if you like this video and want more of this, definitely let me know. I'm happy to do more cryptid stuff if I find one that I think just kind of deserves a highlight, like I thought with the J'ba Fofi, because I don't really hear people talk about that. I'll probably find one and talk about it. But yeah, just, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.